Hello, it's Andy again from the Egocast channel. I know this one's gonna be long. I know this one's gonna be really long. I was thinking about doing like 2 parts, but I can't do it. This is gonna be more of like a documentary. So strap in. This is fucking Women in the Sciences, the movie. Sorry. We're gonna go over a lot of stuff in this. Like I did a lot of work today. And we're gonna get into some of my crazy. For those of you who remember Terry Ann, you remember that I wanted everybody to give Terry Ann love and support and try and encourage her to like talk about different subjects and shit. Because I wanted to see when she decided to turn crazy, like when some sort of weird rant would come out. You might get a little bit of that from me out of this one. I see these things and it angers me because it's like, God damn it, what the fuck are we doing? Because it's so obvious to me. I mean, I get really frustrated with this shit, so I might get a little misogynistic in this one. Ladies, I'm sorry. I'm sorry in advance, but you know, it's medicine. When it comes down to it, ladies, you know, it doesn't taste good, but it doesn't taste good because you're sick. Like, remember the graph? Everybody remember the graph? Like, from here, right here, over, you're all the sick ladies that get upset and offended by this shit and think that there's something wrong with this beyond that this is happening. So, we're talking to you today. I love you ladies. I do. All my lady fans, please don't get offended by this. You know, it's life. It's reality. This shit is math. It's quantifiable. Statistics. It doesn't get more hard science than this. You want to be scientists? Let's fucking talk science.
First thing I will say is that there's a surprising amount of hostility towards boys in this society. To put it bluntly, boys are politically incorrect.
Fuck yeah!
Gloria Steinem, the feminist leader, once said that, or she often says, that we need to raise boys more like we raise girls.
That just sounds like such a bad idea.
And strangely enough, many schools are now following that advice. Now,
I want to point something out. This is old. Like, I think this was in like mid to late 90s. So this is possibly 20 years old. So bear that in mind as you watch this part of it. This is a long time ago. And things will click in your mind and you'll kind of go, oh shit, all that's happening.
This is not because teachers and education theorists and feminists dislike boys. It's not because they want to harm them. They sincerely believe that something is seriously wrong with the young men in America. And a growing number of experts now claim that the nation's boys as a group are disturbed, depressed, not in touch with their feelings, and for that reason, in need of being re-socialized in the direction of femininity.
Now see, here we go. My problem with this is, like, I can only speak from what I know. I don't know you. I'm sure you're very different than what I'm about to describe. Absolutely. But from what I've seen from women that I've met in my life, I've never met a truly happy woman. I've met women that look happy, but there's always something wrong. There's always something going. I've never seen a woman that is perfectly content. There's always a problem, right? So, if boys are depressed and upset, why would we want to make them more like girls? It's because I've never met a happy girl. And I know some of you are happy, but whatever.
So there's a new movement sort of sweeping the country to save the males. Well, do American males need to be saved? Do they need to be rescued from their masculinity? I don't think so. I don't agree that the nation's boys are in crisis. I see no evidence for it. I mean, of course, some boys are in trouble, in serious trouble, but so too are some girls. When you look at genuine social science research, what you find is that the vast majority of boys are mentally healthy. I mean, being a boy is not a defect, it's not a disorder, not something you have to recover from.
It's just a state of being. I don't know how to describe it. It's amazing being a guy. I think all ladies should try it sometime. I watched a video once of a lady. She was an author, and she like became a man. Like she, makeup, like, and they glued on fucking whiskers, like individual whiskers and shit like that. And she became a man, and she hung out with guys. And she was like, it was amazing. Like, they welcomed me into their group like it was no thing. They were so nice to me. It was fantastic. It was so much fun every time I hung out with them. And it was interesting to hear her talk about it, because it was like, yeah, God damn it, that's what we're fucking like. So, it's, I don't know. It's, how, okay, this might come off a little bit racist, but I don't mean it to. It's just an example. You know how, like, black people are all like, brother, sister, like they have that kind of like kinship, you know what I mean, with each other, just based on the struggle, and all the fucking struggle and all that shit, like men are like that. Like, we're all dude. Like, if you're a dude, then you're a dude. Like, and there are guys that are dudes, and they just fit in any group, like there are guys that are like that. And then there are guys that don't fucking fit anywhere, but you have those. But for the most part, most guys are, you ever seen two guys that have never met each other yet talk to each other like they've known each other for decades? That's fucking how we are. I can't explain it. I don't know.
However, this movement that I referred to save the males, at Harvard University, led by Carol Gilligan, William Pollack, gender equity experts in various departments of education, this is not about helping boys academically. This is a movement, as they say, to sort of rescue boys from their maleness.
Rescue boys from the brotherhood. You know what I mean? Like, see those dudes in the pink fucking feather boas holding the fucking my wife's feminist sign, and it's like, you look at those guys and every guy feels it. They all go, man, because it's like we lost one, you know what I mean? Like, that's how we feel about it. It's difficult to explain, guys, but I'm gonna try and do it.
Now, let me give some examples of efforts to change little boys. Let me be specific and give you some examples of how the Save the Males movement is working. Some of what I'm about to tell you may sound extreme, and it is. It's a little weird. But what worries me very much is that if nobody stands up and protests it, it could easily become mainstream.
Now remember, this is a long time ago, like 20 years ago. So pay close attention. Here's where it gets real fun to listen to this kind of shit.
Example 1. You've all heard of Take Your Daughters to Work Day. This is a school holiday for girls run by the Ms. Foundation. And I think it's in its 7th or 8th year, and it's a happy day. Girls go off to school with mom and dad. Good time had by all. Well, many companies and many parents are demanding that Take Your Daughters to Work Day include boys. So it's becoming Take Your Child to Work Day. And the feminists at the Ms. Foundation are very unhappy about this move to include boys.
Of course they are. Because as we all know, because as we have the definition read to us in every fucking video, feminism is all about equality between the genders. Right?
So they have spent the last few years rather desperately looking for ways to maintain the feminist purity of the holiday. So a few years ago, Marie Wilson, the president of the Ms. Foundation, began working with some feminist men's groups.
Just makes me laugh. Feminist men's groups. Run by women. I guarantee you every time. Like, feminist men's groups. It's like you know what I picture when I hear feminist men's groups? This is what I fucking picture, right? Like the feminist headquarters, right, has like a playroom for guys, and it's got like video games and shit and like toy trucks and dolls and stuff like that. You know, it's got the girly stuff too, My Little Pony and shit, because you got to have everything represented. Nothing violent, of course. Nothing like that. And like that's where all of the women take their husbands and like leave them. And like those are the feminist men's groups. Like that's what I picture in my fucking head every time I hear feminist men's group. Ugh.
To design a separate holiday for boys called Son's Day. If boys had their own day, then Daughter's Day could remain for girls alone. Well, here is some of the ways that Son's Day was to be celebrated. I'll just add that Son's Day never got off the ground. You'll see why in a moment.
Seriously. Some of the funniest fucking shit I've ever heard in my life.
This is a holiday for boys. Activity number 1, recommended by the Ms. Foundation, at least in their planning documents. Take your son to an event that focuses on ending men's violence against women. Call the Family Violence Prevention Fund, 1-800-END-ABUSE for information.
Wow, this is starting off with a bang. That sounds like too much fun.
Number 2, plan a game or sport specifically where no one keeps score or declares a winner. Doesn't that sound fun?
Now remember, this was a long time ago. Some of you, your ears might have pricked up right there, and you might be thinking to yourself, holy shit, they do that now. Yep, they do.
Boys can't wait to play that. Since Son's Day is on a Sunday, make sure your son is involved in preparing the family for work and school for the week ahead. This means helping lay out clothes for siblings and making lunches. A friend of mine called this a holiday in hell for Junior.
It's on a fucking Sunday. Did anybody else hear that it was on a fucking Sunday? Like, this sounds like horse shit, man.
And for boys not totally exhausted by all the fun and excitement of the day's activities, the Ms. Foundation made these suggestions for the evening. Take your son grocery shopping and help him plan and prepare the family evening meals.
Yeah, this is way better than like going to work with dad and seeing what he does and like chatting up his coworkers. Yeah, fuck that. I'd rather cook dinner. What?
So, as the Ms. staff planned it, Son's Day, first of all, they wouldn't get a day off school, which I told this to my son. He was then 13 or 14, and he thought that was unfair.
Yeah, you think? You think that's like a little unfair?
But then when I described the activities, he was quite taken aback. It didn't sound especially entertaining or amusing.
Yeah. No shit. Well, it didn't field test well? Huh. Go figure.
In the end, this holiday was canceled, and the Ms. Foundation is back to the drawing board looking for a way to, as I said, to develop a holiday for boys.
Fucking wow. Like...
But I think this attempt to initiate a boys' holiday tells us something about how these reformers see boys. I mean, clearly they regard them as too undomesticated, too competitive, far too violent, in need of serious re-education. I mean, imagine a holiday for boys where you dial 1-800-END-ABUSE for tips. This is strange.
Yeah, you think, let's start the day off by learning what a rapey little son of a bitch you're going to wind up being. Then maybe we'll talk about domestic abuse and how it's going to be terrible when you beat your wife someday. And then you're going to go ahead and make lunch for everybody. Then we're going to play a shitty game and not keep score. So we're going to follow everything up with make fucking dinner. Like, good Sunday, Mom and Dad. Thanks for that one. Fucking fantastic.
Well, I've asked the proponents of this in the Save the Males movement, or I've read their works, and typically they will point to very high levels of violence in American society. And they correctly point out that most violence is perpetrated by males. A lot of it is directed against women. And as they explain it, what they're trying to do is to attack the problem at its roots. They're trying to get to boys at the earliest possible stage and redirect them away from aggression and violence and towards nurture and compassion. What I found is that if you look at the statistics that are provided by these women's groups, you should check the source.
Because that shit, 9 times out of 10, fucking horseshit.
Because what worries me as a college professor who teaches ethics, if you're going to have a movement, a progressive movement to change society, you better get your facts straight. If you've got good information and moral energy, that leads to social progress. But if you have bad information and moral energy, it leads to fanaticism. And what I'm going to suggest is we may be looking at fanaticism in our attitude towards boys right now.
Now remember, this was a long time ago. Back when they were looking that maybe it might lead to fanaticism. I think we're past that.
Because in too many women's studies departments, and I say this is someone who identifies as a feminist. I became a feminist in the 70s because I did not like male chauvinism. I remain a feminist. I still remind the students in my introductory philosophy classes how recently women achieved emancipation, and that it's something they should know about and be proud of. But I draw the line at truth and accuracy.
That's not something you hear these days from feminists. Just saying.
That's what will help women, is good information. I am sorry to report that most of our major feminists, not all, but most of our major feminist organizations disseminate false information about men. Misinformation, if you can bear the pun.
I want to blame her for manspreading and mansplaining. I so badly want to blame her for that. Just because this was a long time ago, you know?
They will say, just to give you some typical examples, that 30% of the women in emergency rooms are there because of domestic violence. 30% of women. More reliable studies show that it's fewer than 1%.
It's quite a fucking variance. That's quite a difference. That makes me think that you pulled that right the fuck out your ass. 30%? 30%? That's ridiculous.
That's still too many. I'm not saying that even we're a huge country. If 1% of the women that come to emergency rooms are there because of domestic violence, that's millions of women. But it's not the average man.
Right? So if it's 1% or less than 1%, you're looking at 1% of men. 1%. 1.
It's an exceptional violent batterer.
Fucking assholes. And nobody likes those guys. And we all wonder why the fuck you ladies, stay with them. What is wrong with you? I mean, not to blame the victim, but Jesus Christ. How many times you gotta get knocked around before you fucking leave a guy? Shit. But, yeah, fuck those guys. That 1%. There's your 1%. That's the 1% everybody should be going after.
So what I argue as a feminist is, let's tell the truth and let's have good policies. But the women's groups seem eager to implicate the average man in a social atrocity. The women's groups, and I'm speaking of the National Organization for Women, the Ms. Foundation, the American Association of University Women, they operate with the philosophy that women are from Venus, men are from hell. Now, this is damaging. Men can handle it, I guess. If you meet one of these angry women, you can go the other way.
Yeah, fuck that shit.
But little boys cannot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And a little boy could encounter a woman who believes this misinformation, because it's in our schools of education. It's in our women's studies programs. It's in as early as freshman orientation. Young women in our colleges are given a catechism of oppression with misleading information. And I've tried for years, and many, I'm in a large number of women scholars, we've tried to correct the misinformation, and it just can't be corrected.
See, this is where it's ridiculous, because here again, this is a long time ago, but it's another thing you see nowadays. The wage gap and all that kind of stuff that's been debunked 50 fucking different ways, and yet we're still hearing about it because it's still getting thrown out there, And it's funny to hear this because this was a long time ago.
Give you one example you may have been aware of that a few years ago it was announced by women's groups and others that on Super Bowl Sunday, battery of women increases 40%.
40%? 40%? 40%. You realize the sheer number of men that you're saying, like, just rage out and beat their... It raises 40% because of the fucking Super Bowl? Come on. Like, on the face of it, that just sounds ridiculous.
And NBC ran a public service announcement encouraging men to remain calm during the game.
Remain calm during the game. Like, my God. We're not fucking animals.
And it turned out that there was no research showing a 40% increase, that it was a hoax or some kind of mistake. Then it got into the media echo chamber. It can't be corrected. Every year it comes back. Robert Lipsyte at the New York Times, a sports writer, began to refer to the Super Bowl as the abuse bowl.
And they still do this shit. I went looking to try and find the commercial that she's talking about. I wanted to find the first stay calm during the Super Bowl thing. But I came across the 2015. So this was a long time ago. 20 some odd years this fucking shit has been going on. So right, here we go. I watched this one, and I gotta tell you, I really actually, this was the best one I think I've ever seen.
Operator 901, where's the emergency?
127 Brynmere.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushroom.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency
Do you
line.
know how long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
Now, see, I like that. I like that a lot, because that's like a really good tip for women. If shit's going on and you can't talk on the phone, do some shit like that. Some sneaky stuff, you know, like, you might not think of that. I didn't think of that. I thought it was fucking brilliant. That's what we need more of. That kind of shit. Help women get out of these kind of situations. You know what I mean? Because there's only so much you can do telling guys to not beat women. If a guy's going to beat a woman, he's going to beat a woman no matter how many times you tell him not to beat a woman, because believe me, everybody his whole life has told him not to beat women. It's something you go through. It's a rite of passage for men. You just get told constantly not to hit girls. So there you go. Like, it's not fucking working. But helping girls get out of the situation, that's fucking awesome. That's what we need more of.
A New York Times writer. So the media plays a role in this game, of course. But what is the result? The result is there are a lot of people in our society who believe that the average man is a predator. They believe that battery and rape, that some of the feminists refer to American society as a rape culture.
And that made me go, oh, shit. Because I thought the whole rape culture thing was fairly recent. So, that's a long time that rape culture has been a thing.
And again, I emphasize that I am not in any way diminishing the horror of violence against women. But as a philosopher and as a moral human being, I think women are going to be helped by truth, not by exaggeration. I think compassion is on the side of truth, and falsehood is not a friend.
Now we're getting into why this kind of shit is fucking harmful, and it is harmful, and it's the reason why I do what I do now. So Here we go.
So I looked at feminist statistics on rape, on violence, on women in education, and what I found is that most of the information we're getting on these topics from our women's groups, most of it, not all, but most, is inaccurate. Some of it wildly inaccurate, some of it completely, absurdly false.
Yeah, like 40% increase in domestic abuse during the Super Bowl. That sounds ridiculous.
I think this is what's behind the movement to save the males, to re-educate, to socialize American boys. It's based on a false picture of how dangerous and violent men are. For the record, I called up the FBI and asked one of their statisticians, what percentage of boys are arrested, young boys, boys under 18, what percentage of boys under 18 are arrested every year for violent crimes? It's fewer than 1%.
There it is again. 1%. Not saying that it's not bad. One is bad. If one life isn't worth anything, then how can any life be worth anything? But 1%. To make out every man as an abuser, to try and unsuccessfully stop 1% of men who don't give a shit about being told not to be women. That's not harmful?
Fewer than 1%. Now, it's absolutely true that males commit most of the violent crime. I'm not denying that if you look at the violent felons in our prisons, you'll find 90% of them are males.
Well, sometimes you gotta beat a motherfucker up.
But at the same time, it's also true the vast majority of males are not violent.
99% seems.
But this small number of boys should not be used to prop up this angry crusade that treats millions of normal, healthy male children as pathologically dangerous. Where did all this data come from? What I believe is that for the last 10 or 15 years, as I said, that through women's studies and through well-meaning feminist groups, they put out false information and created a distorted picture.
So we're seeing the effects of over 30 years of this shit being shoved down our throats. And Donald Trump is the president.
I'll add one other thing, this anti-male propaganda, not only the misinformation about education, but there's a lot of anti-male propaganda on our campuses. And any young man who's about to go to any number of colleges, you should be aware that you will encounter hostility. And last September, Men's Health magazine published a list of the 10 worst colleges for men.
You imagine if somebody put that out now? Oh my God. It would be like they said we're starting up Nazis again.
And if you are a young man thinking of going to college or a parent and concerned, you should take a look at that list because there's a lot of mean-spiritedness. We have the word misogyny, hostility and hatred of women, and that's a terrible thing and must be combated. And I hope we've reached a place where people are ashamed to show, that kind of hostility to women.
Fuck bitches. I was kidding.
But we have misandry, anger and hostility to men, which is thriving. And again, grown men can probably handle it. Little boys cannot. And many of our sons are confronting it in the classroom. Not most teachers, but chances are, if you have a principal or a superintendent that was trained at one of our leading schools of education, at Harvard Graduate School of Education, at Columbia's Teachers College, they would have read.
Now, see, that's kind of fucked up. Why you gotta pan out and show that she's talking to a room of fucking 6 people and empty chairs, and it looks like one of them is like an 8-year-old? Fucking, why you gotta do that? That's fucked up.
These feminist tracks with the misinformation, making little boys look like they're, privileged young patriarchs that have to be taken down a notch, and the girls are made to seem as shortchanged victims. And again, this is just an unfortunate and unhappy distortion. The classroom is increasingly catered to the interests of girls. You can go into a classroom and they're well, one historian of education said most classrooms are run by women for girls. And a friend of mine who is a literacy expert at Harvard told me that she was reviewing textbooks that were used by 6th and 7th graders, readers. And she said you could come away thinking that the American West was settled by teenage girls traveling with parents.
And you know, if you think about it, that shit is everywhere. Like Little House on the Prairie, all that shit is all little girls. What the fuck?
Now, this is a serious problem. Boys are reading, the average 17-year-old boy, according to the latest Department of Education's data, the average 17-year-old boy has the writing skills of a 14-year-old girl. Now, a parent out there of a 17-year-old boy might have been a little worried about Johnny's writing skills. You're not alone. It's all of our sons, but it's a problem that's not talked about. The average boy's about a year and a half behind in reading.
Now, I hate to sound like a broken record here, but again, it's important to recognize this was a long time ago. And I'm willing to bet shit hasn't gotten better over time because we haven't stopped the whole we should teach everybody like we teach girls nonsense. So, I imagine things are exceedingly worse now.
Now, why on earth, if boys are so seriously behind, why wouldn't teachers be desperately looking for materials that are interesting to boys? Well, one reason is because that means it's going to be politically incorrect. They're going to have adventure stories and male heroes, and boys like war stories, my goodness, stories with adventure and combat and so forth. So if you bring that in...
I'll be honest with you, just to throw in my little anecdotal take on it, that was when I got interested in reading. I didn't want to read anything until I started reading fantasy novels, and then I was reading constantly. So, God damn it.
That's going to upset some of these from this movement to save males from their masculinity. They don't want to encourage masculinity. They want to change it in the direction of femininity. So we have a problem. We have a problem with boys falling further behind, and the dominant theories and trends in education moving away from what is helpful to boys.
Has moved away from. You apply that to modern times, has moved away from. I mean, I think it's like women to men ratio in colleges is like 3-1 or something like that. 2/3, I think women are. Like, that's not good. That's just not good. Like, that is just not good. Now we've got the opposite effect of everything. The whole feminist movement has pushed it the opposite way. How is that even, like that alone just not good? What the fuck? But now we're gonna look at some commercials. They talked about the propaganda against men. I'm sorry, I'm very tired. It's very late. They talked about the propaganda against men, the commercials, the don't beat women commercials. And I'd like to go over a couple of them because I found some that were, in my opinion, hysterical. Like, they don't come off as funny, but they're kind of funny. We'll just watch them.
You pop those down there. You're okay. Just did it because he likes you.
Okay, first of all, shittiest portrayal of a mother I've ever seen in my life. No mother ever, anywhere, would ever just let that shit slide and be like, oh, it's okay. Man, I would have got my ass beat so bad in front of everybody. And honestly, you know what it is? This look. This fucking look right here. There it is. That's what gets you the ass beating. It's not even the door slamming. That could have been an accident. That fucking look, that shit right there, that is, when your mom sees that shit, that's when you get fucking chased around the yard. That's when you get your fucking ass handed to you. And that's when you fucking deserve it. Feminist household.
Don't try like a girl, mate. Come on.
There you go. That guy's just a dick. He's that 1%. There you go. Let's grab the 1%.
Look at that. Yes.
there's another 1%er. But seriously, that happened. What happens next? She goes and gets some dude to go and fuck him up. That's what happens next. That shit doesn't just go over nowadays. Come on. And if it is, ladies, what are you doing? Fucking scream at that motherfucker. Kick him in the fucking face. Like, I mean, I guess that violence isn't really the answer. But fuck that shit, you know? Like, that's some bullshit. At least yell at him. At least call him out for being a fucking piece of shit to everybody so everybody fucking knows. Make a fucking scene. That's what you guys are good at. Well, what was the argument about? I mean, you know, I've stormed out of a car angrily during a fight before. Doesn't mean I smacked her around afterwards. Like, you know, what was the fight about? Maybe she cheated on him. How do you know? Alright, well, that's some dick shit. You know, like, 1%er, though. That is not the average guy. That isn't the average fucking guy. That's the 1%.
You're okay. He loves you.
Ah! Drives me fucking nuts. Because it's like, you don't want to blame the victim, but at the same time, you're doing it to yourselves. At that point, come on. Fucking be a woman. God damn.
What do you mean, what do I do?
Violence against women starts with disrespect. The excuses we make allow it to grow.
That's why you gotta beat his ass. You know? Seriously! That's why you beat that little fucker when he gives that look. God damn it. Feminist household.
Violence against women. Let's stop it at the start. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
Alright, this next one is just another pitiful indictment of men being raised like women. It's exactly what this is. It's fucking pitiful.
What the hell's this?
What's what? That? It's a dress.
Look, I know it's a bloody dress. What the hell is it for? You think I'm just going to let you out of here wearing that?
What are you idiot? You're wrecking it.
I'm an idiot, am I?
What's got into you?
You think I don't know what you're up to?
What do you mean? Stop it. What are you doing? Just let go.
Who's going to be there?
Who? I don't know what you mean. Please, just let go.
Stupid little lame hat! Tell it!
Aw, shit.
Who is it? Who are you getting all dressed up for? Who the hell are you trying to impress? You're making me stupid.
Fucking, I know, right? He's gonna go fuck him up.
No, you're just making me. Now tell me, or you know what's coming next.
Yeah, dude, you fucking tell that asshole to stop that shit.
Thought you could use this.
You fucking kidding me?
Right, come here.
Right there. There's your feminist raised pussy. Fucking not enough of a man to stand up to that dude. That's what you get. This next one is kind of like how it shows how guys kind of, well, it shows how I kind of deal with this constant barrage. You know, some of these commercials, when they come out with them, for whatever reason, they just get a lot of funding that year or whatever, but you see the fucking things constantly. You see the goddamn commercial 1,000 fucking times. So, I found this one, a golden oldie, such a fantastic one, but this is kind of to show how like, at least I deal with this kind of shit. It's not funny. It's not funny, but it can be funny if you're sick.
You're doing a real good job on your picture.
Coffee.
Please.
I'd like some more too, please. Sure.
She spilled my coffee.
Alright, now that's the punchline. She spilled my coffee. That's the punchline. Joke is over. No longer funny. From here on out, no more joking. She spilled my coffee. That's the punchline. Joke is over. No more funny. It gets fucking rough from here. You might want to, if you have children watching this, what?
I'm sorry, sir.
You fucking bitch. I'll bring a little coffee. How do you like this? You wouldn't get away with it here. You shouldn't get away with it at home.
Alright, now let's be fucking honest here. That's like the 0.001%. I mean, for fuck's sake, he dumped the whole coffee pot on her. Like, that's a little bit fucking much. You know what I mean? Like, I know these commercials are supposed to have an effect. It's supposed to hit you fucking hard and hit you where it hurts so that you go, oh my god, I can't be like that. But we know already. And the 1%, they're looking at that going, ha ha, well, she spilled his fucking coffee. Like, they don't give a shit. The 1% is sick enough to beat women. You think that's gonna fucking register with them? But I have to suffer through that commercial 1,000 fucking times, and the way that I dealt with it was priceless. I was out once with my friends, we were having dinner, we were kind of drinking, it got around to coffee time, I got a cup of coffee, the waitress spilled the coffee, and I just looked at the coffee and went, she spilled my coffee. And everybody at the table, we all looked at each other like, because it was funny, you know, because we knew what happened next, and that shit's not funny. But to imagine that happening in real life, generations of people will go their entire lifespans and never ever fucking see that. Societies will grow, crumble, and fall in the time it will take for that kind of shit to actually fucking happen in reality. Like, it doesn't happen. It's so ridiculous. The absurdity of it is so much that, you know, when the waitress spills your coffee, and it happens. That happens a lot, you know, when your waitresses spill the coffee, and she spilled my coffee. It's funny. Like, it's dark humor, obviously, but that's how we deal. It's another way I'm explaining how men think. It's how we deal with shit, you know? Like, the absurdity of it works its way into our heads, and you know, we're not like that. Like, to think that we all are is ridiculous for that commercial to be made. Really? All that's gonna do is make people go, God, I didn't need to see that shit today. But, you know, when she spilled my coffee. Big cut there. That would be where I would normally want to end it. But we're fucking almost 50 minutes into this shit. So, but the reason why this one's so long, I should have split them up properly. I didn't because I couldn't find the video. And then one of my buddies, one of my patrons, Amsterdam Heavy, he said, do you think it was in one of this guy's videos? And I said, no, it was a guest spot for somebody, and it was on somebody's channel like Sargon or Kraut. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, oh, fuck. Sargon was on vacation for like a week. And there it is. I found the video. So this video should have been tagged into the last video, which would have made that video about a half an hour, and it would make this video about 45 minutes. So that's why this is part 2 of the movie, because this is probably going to be over an hour long video, and I'm sorry about that. But if I stop it here, how the fuck do you stop it here? You can't stop it on, she spilled my coffee, and then fucking what, hit the music? No. So we're going to go into this video by the Britisher. It's ponderous, but just bear with him because it gets fucking interesting. If you've lasted this long, believe me, it gets fucking interesting in the next 20 minutes or so.
Now, you have all most likely heard of the fact that by now almost 2/3 of university places in Britain and America are by now occupied by the female of the species. You have most likely also heard that this proportion is in fact rising and has been rising for decades. Boys are falling behind. Girls are excelling. Huzzah.
Now, this speaks to the genius of me. This is going to be the crux of my argument later on when I start getting ridiculous. See how beautifully this is all woven together? And another reason why this is a big, long movie instead of what it should be. It all works so well. See, now we're in modern time. And now we're talking about the effects of the shit that somebody was talking about 20 years ago as being a problem that was already in full swing. So now the pendulum has swung. Here's where we're at. Oh, it's beautiful.
Of course, you cannot have failed to hear how incredibly unfair it is that women do not also dominate STEM subjects, and how the absence of such dominance is clear evidence of oppression by the patriarchy.
And that's why it works so well with the other video. See, it's all interwoven. It's a genius mind. Me, like Spielberg, Lucas, rarefied individuals that can interweave a story like that. Just not to toot my own horn. I mean, I pride myself on my humility, but I'm just amazing.
After all, how could it be otherwise? Meanwhile, of course, observers like Christina Hoff Sommers have long ago complained about the gerrymandering of the education system to favour girls.
All authors will probably say this, but I actually believe that my book is probably more relevant now than it was when I wrote it.
More signs of my brilliance. Christina Hoff Sommers talking about the book that we talked about before. God damn. If you've made it this far, you're watching Brilliance. I just got to tell you.
Because things have become a lot worse for boys and young men. The college gap has grown. Intolerance for youthful male liveliness is very high right now. We've seen a series of cases where little boys are suspended for school for playing cops and robbers or bang bang. I mean, so almost from the moment a male child, enters school, he's there on sufferance because a lot of teachers they've gone through schools of education where they've learned some of these theories about toxic masculinity and boys, we have pretty good evidence that teachers don't like them as much, and boys are graded down for their bad behavior. So you might have a child who you know is very smart and very interested in history, but he doesn't get a good grade. And this has been researched carefully. The teachers will mark a boy down academically for his comportment. So boys, there's probably grading bias against boys.
Probably grading bias. Probably grading bias against boys.
I myself remember debates on the BBC programme Question Time, back in the 90s, when feminist politicians like Harriet Harman were still demanding, and eventually receiving, further alterations to teaching processes in favour of girls at school. First off, we know that the sexes simply have different aptitudes. Females show much greater lingual ability. Males show greater capacity at maths and science. So right from the off, we have divergence of talent. I would be willing to bet that in that great Tower of Babel, the Parliament of the European Union, where live translation must constantly be provided in the parliamentary chamber, as well as in committees and in other meetings, and there is also a constant need to publish all documents in various languages, the majority of translators will most likely be female. Why? Because linguistics heavily favours the female mind. Now for a little graph.
For those of you who watched my last video, that is the graph that I was looking for.
Milo Yiannopoulos has already made hay of a version of this particular graph. It is the famous divergent bell curve. Women and men display roughly equal average intelligence, but women cluster more around the average. In practice, this means most women are of fairly reasonable intelligence, whereas men produce some abject idiots and utter geniuses. And that's the rub.
See, and like, alright, I would rub myself, like, somewhere around here. There's where I would put me. Here, hold on. Alright. See me? There's me, right there, right? Not way out there in the genius realm, but certainly smarter than every woman. I'm just fucking with you. But it's something to think about. He breaks it down way better than I ever could. Way better than I ever could. Get ready for it.
The geniuses reside in the male sex. They reside here. The fact that history is cluttered with male inventors, discoverers and engineers is not the result of oppression and patriarchy. No, it's aptitude. And it's the bell curve.
See, and I was being exceptionally nice. See how many of the women I included in my little fucking chart? He stopped his... See how much he cuts off? You gotta kind of forgive me some of the shit that I say in this video because I gave you guys that much. I was that much on your side. That's a lot. That's a whole bar of the paper. That's a lot to be on you gals' side. Come on. I'm down with the cause.
As an aside, the so-called variability hypothesis applies to many different characteristics, not merely intelligence. The male is the more varied creature, both mentally and physically. Furthermore, this does not only apply to humans, but so too to other species. Darwin already commented on this. However, the greater variability of the male most likely grants him the greater diversity of aptitude, meaning that he is more likely to dominate the extremes of most given traits. Hence, the most outstanding prodigies are most likely always going to be male, explaining how we arrived at Mozart, John Cleese, Michelangelo, and Maxim Vengerov, not due to patriarchy, but because the statistics simply favor the male.
Science. Maybe if more ladies got into the sciences, y'all would understand that shit.
But back to intelligence. Here is a short extract from a speech by the philosopher Helena Cronin. I think you will find it enlightening.
For all sex differences in all species, this is not just humans, all sex differences in all species, there's a difference in the shape of the tails. Among males, the variance, that's the difference between the best and the worst, and the most and the least, or whatever it is, tallest and shortest, is far greater than among females. Females tend to cluster round the mean, that curve there in the middle. Females tend to cluster around the mean. The tails are far less far apart, but among males, the variance can be great, huge. So males are almost bound to be overrepresented, both at the bottom and at the top. I think of this, I hasten to say metaphorically, as more dumbbells, but more Nobels.
Alright, it got some chuckles. It deserved more of a than chuckle. It was a decent joke. It needs some work. Her delivery's a little bit dry.
An extreme example of the right-hand tail, which even the scientist who found it said in the paper, staggering. For the ability in mechanical reasoning, in the top 0.1%, that's admittedly a very rarefied atmosphere, try and guess what the male-female ratio is. It's 236 to 1.
You know me. I hate those ridiculous numbers. 236 to 1. Now we're talking about 0.01%. The absolute most brilliant people ever. But 236 to 1? It sounds ridiculous. The more you listen, it starts to not sound as ridiculous, but right on the face of it, that sounds ridiculous.
That's how far the Nobel's dumbbells effect can push the difference between males and females.
I mean, that's an extreme difference. But if that's even half accurate, that's still ridiculous. So sometimes those ridiculous statistics are true.
So that is indeed quite a figure. Let us repeat this, shall we? At the top 0.1% of human ability in mechanical reasoning, the ratio between male and female is believed to be a staggering 236 to 1. I wonder, is there anyone who thinks this discrepancy is still within the margin of error? Anyhow, make of that what you will. But for all the male brilliance, things have not been going well as of late. Economists are habitually telling us that our Western societies no longer produce disruptive technologies at the same rate as they have in the past.
And here's where it depresses me that the video is this long, because there's very few of you that are still watching. And for those of you who are, thank you very much. But here's where we get into the current effects of everything that feminism has been doing to schools. We're seeing the effects now, and he lays it bare for you. But this is an amazing video.
This is worrying, not least as it has been the Western societies who have produced all the progress for the past 500 years or more. If we are to wait for Africa, Latin America, Arabia, India and China to invent the next great thing, we might be waiting a very long time. The reason economists are particularly agitated by our innovation slowdown is because it poses a major problem. The overall economy loses a given percentage of jobs every year simply due to efficiency gains. In every field of industry, management is everlastingly looking to produce more with fewer employees.
And as we make strides in the fields of robotics, we are possibly looking at some rough fucking times ahead.
This, together with small incremental gains in existing technology, steadily erodes away the employment base. Therefore, our societies require a constant stream of new technologies to emerge in order to create new jobs in fields which previously did not exist. Simply put, technological progress and economic growth are a necessity. Turn off either of those two taps, and you are in dire trouble. Stagnation follows, and mass unemployment. It may be that some of the slowdown is caused by our having picked the scientific low-hanging fruit, and that progress is hence becoming harder. That, however, is only a stronger argument for our making a greater effort in science.
Making a greater effort in science. And, let's do that. We should definitely be making greater efforts in science.
Now, back to our graph. The geniuses all reside in the high tail end of the male spectrum of intelligence. I'm sorry, ladies. It is what it is.
Yeah, truth, just truth, man. What the fuck you gonna do about it?
Males get a chance in the lottery of life to be the next Einstein. Women do not. Those of us who are not geniuses must simply come to terms with it.
You know what they say, ladies? Behind every good man is some woman that cooks him supper.
I feel perfectly at ease to talk about genius. I am not one of those tail-enders. I would like to be. But there is reality. Physics and mathematics never were my sphere to any great degree, nor am I the next Mozart. I have met a handful of people in my lifetime in whom I saw the spark of genius. They are a particular breed. Awkward, more often than not shy, but devilishly clever. Do not, however, think that they all reside as fellows at universities. Life does not work out that way.
Some are YouTubers. Shit happens.
What hence our societies, out of sheer necessity, must contrive to do is to increase our chances of getting those boffins into university. We simply need to find the geniuses. They may not be that easily identifiable at school or college, because some might not even particularly excel at school. They will most likely do reasonably well, but your resident genius might not be the best in class. He needs to be discovered. I know of what I speak. I know an individual who for years worked in a book warehouse, and yet was a marvel at astronomy and all things space. The man even appeared on the national broadcaster of his respective country one day in order to explain the phenomenon of the Shoemaker-Levy comet crashing into Jupiter. And we are not talking amateur hour, but the main national news. He never went to university. He has since excelled at accountancy. If you knew him, you would know he belongs at a space agency. Yes, indeed. What a waste. This is what we must prevent from happening.
Damn right, man. I know guys like that just know fucking everything about a certain subject and never went to college, and they're just wasting away in some fucking menial job somewhere. Like, I know a lot of guys like that.
It is paramount we get the genius peak of the male intelligence into university, because we need our geniuses where they can achieve most. We need to maximize our society's ability to discover these Turings, Faradays, and Bessemers. The greater the number of males we pack in, the more likely we are to succeed in getting the Einsteins, Newtons, Edisons, Stevensons, and Brunels in there. They are the fuel upon which our civilization truly runs. They are, not petroleum. With our rate of progress slowing, could our prioritizing the female of the species have something to do with the slowdown?
Well, I mean, I don't know, but provide a good argument.
Might our progressiveness ironically be hindering progress? So with the best will in the world, ladies, it will not be you. It will not be your daughters. It will not be your granddaughters. But it might be your brother. It might be your son. Or your grandson. The kind of genius of which I speak resides in the male. In a particular kind of male, who is very close to autism. So how do we improve our chances of finding this type?
See, this is where it kind of goes off the rails, but it's a strong argument.
There is a simple, ruthless way of increasing our chances. More males at university. Preferably more males in proportion to females, with a heavy weighting toward hard science. In the end, it is a numbers game. The more Y chromosomes we have at science departments at university, the more likely we find that one chap who can create the next big thing. The likes of the steam engine, automobile, airplane, computer. The next industry which will employ millions for a century. I am sorry, that is more important than feminism. It is more important than social studies. If we are honest, the next Beethoven or Rembrandt is not really going to be female either, is he?
Hey, you know, what are you going to do?
After all, he was never in the past. But I digress. We have increasingly failed to prioritize finding the male science genius, and have paid the price for it. I say, enough is enough. Get out of the universities, ladies. By all means, have the best among you do degrees. The rest of you take to careers in industry and commerce if you want. Become prime ministers. But leave the lion's share of the university space to the sciences and the males, where we can try and find the future generations of epoch makers. Now, before people complain, of course I acknowledge the need for other subjects than science at university. These institutions do not solely exist to foster the next engineering miracles, but so too do they educate and train the intellectual elite, be they male or female. Just as we need science, so do we need the humanities. But with 2/3 of the universities being female, most of whom cluster around the humanities departments, it is time we acknowledge that there is a problem. Society has limited resources. One single Edison is worth the equivalent of 10 million media studies graduates, be they male or female. And no, that is not a rhetorical exaggeration.
Statistics.
And let us not forget that Edison was male. They were all male, bar one or two examples. And waving those exceptions in our face changes nothing. For decades now, any claim of academic discrimination against the female is moot. Not least when she makes up the majority of the student body. Yet science remains resolutely male, and the female has not stepped up to fill the vacancy caused by the diminished proportion of male students.
Oh, shit. Y'all talked about how there wasn't enough women in college. Now there's a whole lot of women in college, 2/3. And now you're bitching about not enough women in STEM fields. Whose fault is that?
Therefore, we ought to stop kidding ourselves. This is not selfishness on my part. After all, what benefit would I derive from this? I am well past university age. This is a simple statement regarding the common good. What is selfishness is for the female of the species to grab ever more university space and resource for herself when it is plainly obvious that it is to the detriment of society, because it most likely condemns yet more brainiacs to some book depository, where they shunt cardboard boxes around all day prior to becoming accountants.
Gigantic waste. Just so sad.
So, do I want more women in STEM subjects? No, I say clear them out. Double, treble, quadruple the STEM subject places at universities, utilizing the budgets of non-STEM faculty to do this. Then shovel in young men at the rate of knots. We could start by abolishing gender studies and other semantic nonsense, and handing over those budgets to the sciences.
Well, you make a good argument, you know, like...
In short, take what finances Dr. Christy Winters and hand it to Thunderfoot. Our rate of technological progress has slowed. What price we are paying for this, we do not even know, for we do not know what technologies we have so far missed out on due to this folly.
Wrap your head around that. What awesome shit. Flying cars. We were supposed to have that shit by now. Fucking hoverboards. We were supposed to have that shit by now. Some movies were already terraforming worlds. Like, what are we missing out on, goddammit?
If we keep on prioritizing the fair sex at university, it is likely that the rate of progress will slow even further. Mass unemployment, falling national budgets, increased national debt, mass poverty. Huzzah! It is high time we crank that handle and get the motor revving again. What we need is Sheldon Cooper, not Penny with a sociology degree.
Thank you to everybody that made it this far. I mean, it's a problem. And it's just getting worse. And it seems like the worse it gets, the more feminists want shit to change even more the way that it's going bad. Like, not big picture people. They're just not big picture people. What are you gonna do? But, thank you if you made it this far. I know that I'm sorry. Like I said, where do you cut it up? You know? Do you cut it up in the middle of the fucking commercials? Like, I certainly can't cut it after the first part of her speech and then start with the commercials in the second. Ooh, that would have been bad. So, you know, it all needs to be together for context. But if you made it this far, do me a big favor and put "She spilled my coffee" in the comment section. We're taking it back. She spilled my coffee.